$94 million lost by young adults to scam artists. I'm Lisa Oligas, and this is Newsmakers. In this edition, we learn how scammers target college-age students and what young adults can do to protect themselves as they move away from home and take responsibility for many financial decisions. Our guest is Pamela Hernandez, Regional Director of the Better Business Bureau. Welcome back to Newsmakers.
Hey, always a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Always great information, so we're so glad you're here. We've talked before about scam artists targeting older Americans, but college students, even with their knowledge of technology, are susceptible. You've told me they are reported to lose higher dollar amounts. So why is that, and how are they equally susceptible?
Well, while young adults may be more familiar with technology, they are inexperienced with life. Things about how do you go about finding a job and what's that legitimate interview process look like, or handling their own finances for the first time. So that type of inexperience, life inexperience, can lead them to be more vulnerable for different types of scams.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the riskiest scams for young adults, which can include employment even while they're going to school.
Absolutely. And so riskiest for BBB and Scam Tracker actually means three things. So it's exposure. How often are they exposed to a certain type of scam? What is their susceptibility? So how likely are they to lose money? And then that monetary loss. So all those things factor to make that list.
Risky.
And employment scams come up on top for young adults because there are so many variations. And again, it's one of those things that maybe you're just not experienced with. How do you go about getting that first, I don't want to say real job, but how do you get that first sort of serious job, particularly coming out of college, or even those special conditions when you're in college where you're looking for extra flexibility. You need to be able to do something that works around your school hours. Those types of things can make college students more vulnerable to employment scams as well.
So one of the things on your website, it mentions sending checks to potential employers or people asking you to even convert it to Bitcoin. Does that happen often? And I mean, Bitcoin seems such a vague area, but you know, they'll send you a check and then you're supposed to convert it, and then it's not a legitimate check. How does it work? I mean, how does it scam the kids?
Well, when we did a study a couple of years ago around employment scams and scams with young adults in particular, 42% of employment scams involved a check of some sort. So that goes back to inexperience. When was the last time you wrote a check for anything, right? We don't deal with checks. And young adults, they may have not seen a check until someone in an employment scam presents them with something. So the types of things reported to BBB Scam Tracker are getting a job, something that's work from home, something that's flexible. We're going to provide you a check to purchase equipment or to go out and buy gift cards for mystery shopping. You can keep a portion of this as your paycheck. You can use the rest to pay on for that equipment. Unfortunately, it's all a scam. That check is fraudulent. And not knowing how checks work through the banking system, it can get confusing. You see the money in the bank account, you think it's there, when in reality, it's going to take days or even weeks for that fake check to come back and debit back out of a bank account.
Wow. How can students avoid these employment scams? I mean, what kind of research do they need to do?
You know, just take a moment and research the job opportunity. First of all, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Yeah. Anything that comes to you out of the blue, unsolicited, you're hired, there's no interview questions, you're going to get a very large amount of pay for very little work, right there you're dealing with a scam. If those things aren't there and it seems like it could be legitimate, just go to the website for the company. See if the job is there. Go on LinkedIn and find people who work for the company and just verify those little details before you turn over any personal information, which can sometimes be a scammer's target, or start doing any kind of work or accepting any kind of checks.
You mentioned like big pay being kind of like a red flag. What are some of the other red flags, and what are types of jobs that might be more suspicious? You mentioned maybe working from home. Are there certain things like, and you said shopping?
So there's something recently that has popped up to BBB Scam Tracker, probably over the last 6 or 7 months, called task-based employment scams. So these are where someone gets a text message, you can work from home, hours are flexible, liking videos, boosting product reviews, and you'll get paid for those tasks. And you may even get a little bit of money up front, but then as the tasks get more valuable, you're asked to pay in. So that's another red flag. If someone asks you to pay for access to a job or pay to get your money that you've earned, you're involved in a scam.
Okay. great tips. So since 2020, the BBB has received more than 4,000 reports about investment scams. So let's talk about investing, and cryptocurrency is one of the big things as a scam. How do scammers use TikTok to get to students? Because that's kind of a new thing, right?
You know, it is in a sense of investment scams are not new, but the medium of social media, someone claiming to be the expert, I'm going to teach you how to do this. I've made money investing in cryptocurrencies, even investing sometimes in what appear to be legitimate stocks, and then either taking you to what looks to be legitimate platform and getting you to invest money in something that doesn't exist. Again, not necessarily a new type of investment scam, but with cryptocurrency, it's easier to do. Or sometimes there are investment clubs where they're not so much trying to get you to invest, but I'm going to teach you how to invest. Come to my group on Telegram, come to my group on Signal, pay me this money and I'll teach you my ways. So there's a couple of different ways that folks can get involved in these type of cryptocurrency investment scams.
And what are the red flags there to know that they aren't legit?
Well, when it comes to investments, anyone that promises you a guaranteed return with no risk, that's your red flag. Investments by their nature have some risks. And for those that don't have a lot of risk, well, those are the ones that are paying a very small, safe amount. You know, if you think about traditional investments like a CD, for example, that's bank insured, you're not going to get as much. So anybody who says, I can give you this big return without any kind of risk, you're not dealing with a reputable individual.
So say you discover this, where do you need to go to report that kind of scam? And it's important to report it, right?
It is absolutely important to report it. Certainly going to BBB. Reporting the report to BB Scam Trackers is very helpful to us so that we can share this information with others, that people who want to check out something, maybe they feel like it's a scam, they can go to BBB Scam Tracker and check it out. But also, if you see something on a social media platform, you need to report it to the platform. Platforms don't want things that are tarnishing their reputations. So making that report, they want to try to get that content taken down, is very important as well. And
with cryptocurrency, I mean, should we be reporting it to the government as well?
Absolutely. You know, internet-based types of crimes, financial crimes, IC3.gov is a great place to go. That's the FBI area for reporting, so you can report it there as well.
Okay, great advice. So let's talk about online shopping scams. And I would think teens and college students do more online shopping than ever. I mean, you say the word, oh, I might need to buy a pair of shoes, and the ads start popping up. So how do they recognize these fake websites, and how can that be a problem for college students?
Well, and when we say online shopping scams, that is anything from sports jerseys to music festival tickets. I mean, that runs the gamut of things. So when it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If it's a jersey for your favorite team at a deep discount, you see the ad on social media, that's probably a red flag. Same thing with any kind of in-demand item, whether that's, again, tickets, a hot piece of electronics, you know, with being back to school time, shopping for things like laptops, tablets. And there are a lot of brands, they don't run sales, right?
So really name brand, really be suspicious then.
Right, exactly. If you see let's just throw it out there, if you see a MacBook at a deep discount, you really need to be skeptical because Apple doesn't run sales. So if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
And you mentioned festivals, music events. You know, my son has always told me, don't click on the first website that pops up when you Google a concert or something. There are legitimate ticket brokers, but how do you know you might not be, like come close to my ticket's never downloaded into my phone. So how do you know which ones are trustworthy?
Well, that's great advice. Things have changed about how we search for things on our search engines, Google or anything else. A lot of times now what we see coming up on Google are either the AI summary results and then a lot of sponsored posts. And those sponsored posts can be legitimate retailers, ticket resellers, or they can be not so legitimate resellers. So really think about where you would buy a ticket directly from the venue. For example, if you're going to a concert or a sporting event, start there. Sometimes they even have resale options through the venue. And then you can go to the National Association of Ticket Brokers to verify someone who's selling tickets, to look and see if they're a member, because they offer some additional guarantees if it's a member association retailer. And just check out that secondhand. If you're going to a reseller site, you can go there, you can go to bbb.org and see what other consumers have to say.
Yeah. You mentioned like resale items and online, and everybody wants you to download their app. So how dangerous can that be when you're, how do you know if it's a legitimate app, and is there a danger there?
Well, going to your app store, whatever ecosystem you are in, that's a great place to start. So it can be a little more tricky, risky, if you're just downloading something at random. But generally speaking, things that are in the App Store have gone through some vetting. But just double check reviews, double check everything about that app, and make sure that it matches up with what you see on the legitimate website.
Okay. So what about campus? We want to talk about campus-specific issues for students. And, you said they can sometimes get warnings about financial aid and grants. Does that happen often? And how do they recognize this isn't legit?
Well, unfortunately, that is something we see reported to BBB Scam Tracker from college students or those who are just out of college, getting some sort of email that looks like it comes from the financial aid office. There's a problem with your tuition payment, or something that looks like it comes from a student loan servicer, or even something about repayment plans for student loans. So knowing who that legitimate contact is. If you get something about your tuition as it stands, don't reply to the email. Just go directly to the office, call the number you know to be true.
Okay. So, and what about off-campus housing? You warned there are too good to be true offers sometimes with apartments.
Oh, you need to be careful. I mean, finding a good rental that is close, that is a good price, can be really hard. And unfortunately, scammers know this. So one of the most important things that you can do is know what is normal for the area that you're searching for. And then when you find that, don't send any money before you've had a chance to tour it, whether it's you or someone you trust to physically see the property. Unfortunately, scammers will ask for a deposit on something that seems like a great deal in a great area so that you can get the property before somebody else does. And that is just a recipe for getting yourself involved into a scam. So just make sure you see it first.
All right, one more question in this segment. So I know when I was in college, I got all kinds of credit card offers as a college student. Should they get them? Should they not? Is there a safe way to do it? Because you're already possibly getting in debt with your school loans, and tuition.
Should you? That's a hard question for me to ask. I think every individual needs to figure out for themselves what that venturing into credit looks like. But if you want to make sure you get a legitimate offer, avoid the things that are coming at you. You probably already have some sort of banking relationship, whether it's through an online banking institution, whether it's through your local financial institution. Go in, talk to that person, or go through their website. You can that way at least know you're getting a credit card from a legitimate company, and you can start building credit the right way.
Yeah. One more question that involves students, though. They're back to school, test prep, and there are scams that have to do with those kind of things. How do you know it's not legit?
Unfortunately, that is another thing we hear about, offering test prep materials. Sometimes that's targeted at the parents, saying your child signed up for something, and the parents maybe don't take the time to verify. It seems normal. If you need test preparation, go to the services you have available at your school. Often there's test prep materials available at little to no charge, as opposed to someone trying to get you to pay hundreds of dollars for test prep.
Great information. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Adulting 101, using BBB before you buy, rent, or get hired.
Job offer out of nowhere? It might not be your lucky day. Employment scam reports are rising fast, with many starting by text. Watch out for red flags. Surprise job offers, unbelievable pay, pressure to accept instantly, or any request for payment upfront. If a job pays you to like or subscribe to videos, it's probably a scam. Protect yourself. Research companies, use video interviews, and never pay to get paid. Learn more at bbb.org/scam studies.
Every new day at Missouri Southern State University opens the door to meaningful opportunities.
Immersive learning, health and life sciences, global education.
These three pillars form the foundation of our mission.
I've always learned best by doing. When I could shape ideas with my own hands, everything clicked.
I enjoy helping others, but I never considered what it could look like as a career.
I grew up in a rural area where people rarely traveled abroad, and I always wondered what waited beyond my small town.
Here I discovered what I can do and who I can become.
Seeing the world through unique perspectives has reshaped how I view my place in it.
At Missouri Southern, we grow and change with purpose.
And that growth shapes who we become.
What begins on this campus moves into studios, hospitals, conference rooms, and communities across the state and around the globe.
This is Missouri Southern State University. Explore boldly.
Care deeply.
Impact globally.
One expanded mission,
Built with lion pride.
Welcome back to Newsmakers, where we are getting the financial do's and don'ts for college students and what puts them at risk of getting scammed. Welcome back our guest from the Better Business Bureau, Regional Director Pamela Hernandez. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
We've given a lot of the red flags and dangers of dealing with not so legit operators. Pamela, let's talk about finding businesses that students can trust. And we talked about hunting for an apartment. That's part of it. And are there other businesses that students might need, like, hey, this is how you find out if they're legit?
There are so many things that you encounter as a young adult, doing things for the first time on their own. You just may not know where to turn. So I'm a great example. Didn't get my first car until I was a senior in high school.
Yep.
I didn't get really good instruction on how to take care of a car coming out of high school and going into college. So obviously I ran into car trouble and I didn't know where to turn. I did not have a trusted adult to ask. I didn't know where to take my car. And unfortunately that got me to a mechanic that took advantage of my inexperience. With BBB and the resources we have at bbb.org, that can help a young adult find somebody to help them fix their car when they run into that first issue. They can find somebody that is near them, that has been vetted, that they can go in and feel confident. And at our young adult resource page, also the questions to ask so that you go in as an educated consumer and know what you're dealing with so that you feel confident in your own decisions.
And BBB might even have reviews or checking reviews is probably a good thing as well to do.
Absolutely. So at bbb.org, you can look for BBB business profiles. You can just go type in mechanic, for example, and it'll bring up BBB accredited businesses, which have gone through some extra vetting, but every business listed will have a grade. They'll have a place for reviews so you can see what other consumers have said, and a place for complaints. So you can see if they have a history of complaints, and perhaps more importantly, how did they handle those complaints?
Well, you mentioned the car. We've talked about apartments. I mean, some students really do go out on their own, and
Yes.
Getting a vehicle how do they know if they can find an affordable used vehicle? And are there certain questions to ask when it comes to purchasing those?
So many questions. Everything from what do you need to ask at the dealership to budgeting for that car payment. And that's why we have those resources at the young adult page to help them understand what they need to do, whether it's a used car, a brand new car, if they're looking at those finance options, all the things that they can ask so that they feel knowledgeable and comfortable.
And they've probably never had a budget before. You really need to have one if you're paying for school at the same time.
If you're anybody needs to have a budget. Yes. I don't care what kind of debt situation, because if you're not in debt, hopefully you're saving for the future. And so having a budget can help you do that as well. And again, one of those things that I was never taught when my mom decided to sort of transition living situations, I asked her about a budget. She had never made a budget, so therefore I had never learned to make a budget until I was on my own. And I think it's that way for a lot of young adults.
Yeah.
So having those resources from someone that you can trust to walk you through the simple steps of, you said, just learning to make a budget.
Yeah. Some may be moving across country to campus. What tips do you have for like moving and shipping their stuff?
So we've got great resources to help with moving. Everything from how do you find a moving company to what do you need to look for in a storage unit to what do you need to do for insurance when you get there. All those resources we can help and have lists. We have checklists, we have list of movers, anything you might need to help get through that transition.
Okay. So we often talk about identity theft, when we talk about the elderly, but it can happen to college students. So what do they need to look for and be aware of when they're maybe oversharing on social media? What is oversharing, and what are some things that they really need to keep in check?
Yeah, that's another thing as you're transitioning into managing your own finances, is starting to think about good financial hygiene. And that means being on the lookout for and protecting yourself from identity theft. So one of the first things is to set up a good routine of checking your credit every year. A lot of folks, that's how they catch identity theft early, is if they're staying on top of their credit, which you can do at annualcreditreport.com. It's free, it's easy. And then checking things like credit card statements and bank statements every month. If you get any kind of paper statement, I don't think most of us don't. I'm the kind of person that looks at my bank account every week.
But with technology, they could probably check their statements routinely.
Absolutely, and that's a great thing about technology and being able to bank online, is that you can keep track of that. And that is good financial hygiene, because again, if someone has stolen your identity, you want to learn about it as soon as possible so that you can start taking steps, and checking those statements, checking your transactions is a great way to help protect yourself.
Great advice. All right, we're going to take another break. When we come back, Pamela will share where you can get help when something does go wrong, like the item ordered online that never seems to arrive.
We all do it, online shopping. No matter what you need or want, you can quickly and easily make a purchase from pretty much anywhere. But regardless of how familiar you are with online shopping, how often do you pause and think, is this deal too good to be true? BBB has a few things to look for to stay safe when shopping online. First, before you add items to your cart, make sure the website you're visiting is legitimate and secure. Look for the HTTPS URL structure in the company's web address, as well as the padlock symbol in the address bar. If you see these two items, that's a good sign. That means you have a secure connection and your data is encrypted. But be on the lookout for other red flags. If you see spelling errors, broken images or links, pop-ups, or requests for personal information, like your social security number, you may be on an unsafe website. Next, verify that you can find the seller's contact information. Whether you're shopping on a brand's website, a social media platform, or an online marketplace with multiple sellers, make sure you can get in contact with the seller if needed. So look for a street address, an email, or a phone number and write that down. For peace of mind, reach out before making any transaction. Another good idea is to check the reviews of the seller or business. Reviews exist on various platforms, but they can also be accessed from a company's BBB business profile. Look for either positive or negative patterns and take note of how the company responds to those reviews. Then, when it's time to click purchase, make sure you're on a secure payment page. If you're taken to an external web page to provide payment, that could be a red flag. And be cautious if you see unusual payment methods like wire transfers or gift cards. And remember, always look for the BBB seal. It's the sign of a better business. If you see the seal on a business's website, that means you're dealing with a trustworthy brand. If you don't see the seal, check with bbb.org to verify the accreditation or to find another online retailer you can trust. For more tips on staying safe when shopping online, visit BBB's online shopping hub at bbb.org/online shopping.
Welcome back to Newsmakers, where the BBB is giving us a toolkit for recognizing scams that target college students. Now it's time to learn what to do when something goes wrong. Our guest again is Pamela Hernandez, Regional Director of the Better Business Bureau. Pamela, great information so far. I think one thing young people should take away from this show is that they can always check with the BBB before making big financial decisions, especially if something is questionable. So many people want to handle problems themselves, but where should they start before they turn to you, even when they discover a problem, like a business or a credit card company? Who do they go to first?
Yeah, because sometimes things go wrong. We live in an imperfect world. Unfortunately, a lot of times consumers are quick to take things online and to social media these days, and they don't even give the business a chance to make it right. Most businesses want to do the right thing, so it's really important to stay calm, ask for what you want, explain the situation, this is what happened, this is what I'd like to do to resolve it, and go directly to the business in a calm manner. And most of the time, you're going to be able to get that resolution. We always at BBB encourage consumers to go to the business owner first. But if you can't get a resolution, you feel like you're not being heard or you're not getting any response at all, then we can help, because we do have a dispute resolution process where we can try to mediate that and get that solution for you as a consumer.
So what's the process of filing a complaint with the BBB? If they have a bad business, something ordered never arrives, and you can't get any resolution?
So very easy, bbb.org. You're going to see a page for consumer resources, file a complaint. You click on that, and it's going to walk you through step by step. You can file a complaint directly from a business's page, but not every business has a page. We try to keep on top of that. We try to make sure we have a page for every business out there, but that doesn't always happen. Just give us the information you have, and we're gonna then reach out. We reach out to the business. Here's what happened from the consumer perspective. What is your perspective, business? What is your proof? Let's see if we can find that resolution for the consumer. And a lot of times, particularly if it's a BBB accredited business, because they are required to respond, we can get a resolution for the consumer.
Which is great, yeah. And you might be the first person to complain about something, or it might be the first time a problem's happened and they didn't even realize, so.
And that happens a lot. It may be something that happened on a front end and the owner may not know, and your complaint to BBB may be the first they've heard of it, and they will reach out and make that right.
So we've often said this, being scammed can be embarrassing, but why is it important to notify the BBB?
No, and it certainly shouldn't be embarrassing. Scammers are criminals.
And they're good at it.
And they're very good at it. And so first of all, sharing that information with a scam tracker report to BBB is helpful to everyone in the community. And it's important to share, to note that we're not going to share your information if you make a report. Your information is anonymous. We're going to talk about the scam, the information about the scammer. The only thing from the person reporting is the zip code, just so we know where things are happening. So there's no reason to be embarrassed. Sharing that information goes a long way to helping protect other consumers.
Yeah. Well, let's remind people of how they can find all these young adult tips on your website.
So bbb.org. For everything, but if you particularly want to find the young adult resources, go to your favorite search engine, type BBB Young Adult. It's going to come right up, and it has so many sections, everything from the shopping to moving to financial wellness. We have a financial wellness HQ as well to help with those things like budgeting. So there's so many resources. Just bookmark it so you have it as you're going through all of those milestones.
And you know, controlling your money, you work hard for your money, so it is important to know where you're spending it, where you're letting it go, and you know, you don't want to just always go, oh well, I lost that. I have to earn more. So you want to be saving for the future.
That's right, especially as a young person, maybe you're not earning a lot. You want to make that go far. So just making sure that you're making smart decisions and you're not losing it to scammers.
Excellent. As usual, great advice. Thank you, Pamela Hernandez.
Thank you.
That wraps up this edition of Newsmakers. Remember, college students, if any deal or offer sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And don't press buy until you are sure it's a valid website. Thanks to our guest, Pamela Hernandez with the BBB, and thank you for watching Newsmakers. I'm Lisa Oligas. Good night.